Banana for the monkey. It happens to be my favorite form anyway, with a few modifications. But if you can eat bananas, enjoy them. But if you like to eat more bologna than anybody else, think twice about that. It's a metaphor for our discussion. I bet you there's monkeys out there envying the banana I have in my hand. Bananas are best eaten when they're ripened, freckled, as these are. Some people like them at varying maturity of ripening. I prefer them this way. The more browner, is that a word? Browner? The more browner, more protein content. And other factors that have been described related to the color. So here's the topic. Whenever you hear what sounds like hate mail, message, or replies, you can only assume. And by the word assume, I don't mean making a jackass out of you and me, because that is the most commonly used definition by the jackasses themselves that constantly use it for that very purpose. When you look at the dictionary, you discover that there are more meanings for the word assume than those jackasses care to know about, or use them in, or apply them as. Okay? In this topic, the position of placement or frame of reference it is used in for meaningful application. Okay? Having a degree doesn't qualify you, nor guarantees you have the necessary healthy knowledge to comprehend something, interpret, and communicate. That's called reflective equilibrium, a rare state of mind to possess, by few even, but available to everyone. Let's get to the point. If you're still here, even after all that is said, that assume means making an ass out of you and me, like they depicted on television in a comedy show years ago. I'm already revealing my age. I believe your learning has frozen there at that point, and you're stuck making an ass out of yourself and somebody else. But my main point isn't that. Get back to the point. Anytime you hear hateful descriptions, they arise from two things, responsible for many other things. Ignorance of the subject at hand, or outright defiant against anything different than that which you do. And the two sort of like fit together, you know? They're related. In prior topics, I've discussed how what we don't know is far greater than what we do know. So no matter how high your IQ, you're still a blithering idiot in contrast to the whole scheme of things in existence. In the cosmos, the further out you go, the greater you realize it is in size, the more difficult it is to detect planet Earth, let alone the galaxy in which it hides in, like a straw in a haystack. Okay? So if our Earth is like a straw in a haystack, and the further out you go, the same thing applies to the galaxy itself and the entire circumference of that area necessary to make the galaxy disappear. Same principle applies. Okay, what we know is far less than what we don't know. But not everybody keeps that in mind. So, that's empty space taps into the only thing it has available. I'm going to use this term, and I don't want to use it for this conversation, but it's probably the cause for why people do, and that happens. Due to the empty space, the only thing available is emotional content. Emotional content? You ever watch a child get frustrated when it has no way of going beyond that sticking point in which it finds itself coping with the fixture of something or putting it together, and it blurts out in a tantrum, and it takes the toy and it slams it on the floor out of frustration? That's what is meant by emotional content. We carry that childhood response, or even far more ignorance, into our daily activities when interacting with people. Far easier when you're reading something, because your brain has too much empty space in it. Okay? So you see hate mail, where the person adamantly, and like he's all that, says, I disagree, which he has a right to. That's why this country designed the U.S. Constitution, to protect idiots like us. Yeah, Americans are idiots, and I'm proud to be one, because this is the only country where you can be proud to be an idiot. See, and nobody can kill you or hang you or whatever atrocities happen in foreign countries. Okay, so the Constitution was designed for idiots like us. Idiots helping idiots who know a little bit more than the person that can't help themselves that you're helping. So anytime you read something like that and your first impulse is to disagree, you are misapplying what disagree was designed for. Just like a hammer was designed for the purpose it was designed. I don't have to tell you, you can figure that out on your own. A plier for the purpose it was designed. A saw. We have a tendency to misapply them. No immediate access to a hammer because you feel frustrated and you don't want to get up, walk, get it, come back, take your time to be prepared. You use the screwdriver you have on your hand to hammer away. I'm sure you've experienced that before, because I have many times. Same thing with a plier. You'll use a plier. You'll even try to saw with a knife that has ridges or teeth on it. So we do that in simple things during the activities of our normal day. Concepts, thoughts, ideas, how we interpret, our emotions and feelings were all designed for the purpose they were designed for. The problem is that we're new in the scene. We haven't been around here thousands of years. And the amount of knowledge that it takes to recognize that is still insignificant, but it allows some thinkers to actually get a clue that what I have just said is the case. That applies. Okay? So, when you get angry, what you need to do at that first impulse, instead of replying with a hatred message, back up. Recognize what it's happening at that moment in you because of your reading it, and recognize, oh damn, I'm pissed off, I don't like this, I disagree. Because it's not about the part or my specific interest. You gotta keep that in mind. If we don't, we continue in the same shit, unlike manure that grows beautiful things, in the same shit where all we get is more shit from somebody else who we've triggered the same way. We have been triggered by what we read or what we disagree with. Now, if this is going over your head, well, stop having fun, get up off of your ass and study. Learn something new, okay? Teach your brain, equip it with viewpoints you've never had before to be able to recognize through its development and by its development until it reaches that point, mental state, that it recognizes what used to overwhelm you is now only a tool to perceive what another is thinking, unlike what you think. See? So, hate messages, you have the right to express your opinion. The problem is that those of us who understand why the Constitution was designed for, to protect idiots like us, we have to accept those who don't know that those things are just tools. You don't criticize or get angry when you see a plier, or when you see a hammer, or when you see a saw, if you're not using the same field of function. You might be working on art with a pencil, with a crayon, with a chalk. Okay? You don't get pissed off at the guy who's using a hammer. A hammer hits a little bit harder than a plier or a screwdriver when it's used to hammer in place of a hammer. It just doesn't work. That might cause a little disturbance. Hey, yo, stop using the freaking screwdriver or the plier because you're going to break it. Here's a hammer. Give him a hammer. Okay? But in our mental capacity, we fail to do it like that. We want to, something happens to us that it makes us feel we need that we need to defend our viewpoint from someone who has no clue what it is to begin with, who is simply talking about what they've acquired knowledge-wise. That either works for them or doesn't work for them. And we forget that. Today, let me change it over to clothing. It's more symbolic thought. You dress up whatever modern way is in style. It's the fad. 2013. All of a sudden you see another guy or another man who has acquired a specific taste, and he comes out wearing a zoot suit. He feels real good about that because it has a significant meaning, specifically first person connection to him. And in his mind, it is the coolest thing to wear. Anyone not having the awareness of the time period in which that has happened, and it was worn like excessively, is going to say, whoa, check this guy out. Sometimes you get a response where guys who have never seen that before will say, I kind of like that. We're not talking about those that easily, just from momentary observation, suddenly acquire like a taste towards that. We're talking about the guys that say, yo man, that's outdated. Where the hell you get that clown suit? Okay? That's not even necessary. Individuals like that lack the ability to respond from variety. And the lack of variety indicates that they're too busy focusing on minimal things. You see? Minimal things. Okay. Thought is a dress or clothing that you wear inside, and it determines what is visible on the outside. It even determines the kind of writing. Writing you are not accustomed to use to express yourself, that you associate with other things, is enough to tick you off, because it may trigger outside of your control, since you don't indoctrinate nor discipline yourself in the science of reflective equilibrium, causes you to get really pissed off, feel insulted, feel offended, or whatever the case may be, to make you say, hey, I disagree with that. At this moment, I'm guilty of participating in the same activity, with one difference. I'm saying it as, and using it as a tool to help you identify what the tool I'm describing is for. But yes, I'm still guilty of the same thing. We can't avoid that. And even this tool being used is enough to tell somebody, who the fuck does this Puerto Rican think he is? My friend, to those who say things like that, I will say, a Puerto Rican who has the American mind, and who doesn't spend his time anymore having fun with things that create more problems. I'm not perfect. Remember, I said I'm proud to be an American idiot, because we have a system that defends any kind of idiot. And if I have to be defended, and I want to be defended because I recognize that I'm part of that group, I will do my best to prove I'm an idiot, so that they say, we gotta help this guy. And then I can live to fight another day. You get the point? And to live to fight another day means I don't want to become what you call that? What's the best term to use? Hindered, encapsulated, or confined somewhere where it deprives me from further learning and interaction with people. All the while remembering that hate responses aren't the thing. See, now don't forget. You want a hate response, you continue doing that. But what usually happens to a mouth that gets too big, or a head that gets too big? Are you made of stainless steel? Are you made of some impenetrable material that someone who's a bigger idiot than you, unaware to you, could just pop out of nowhere for reasons that you have not participated in, except those you might have in tiny amounts relayed, that got him pissed off, can come up with that as sufficient reason to do you harm. So, knowing that you are just as frail as anybody else, the best approach in life is to not place yourself in a position where your desire to defend whatever viewpoint you have, because you misunderstood anyway, and totally based on the fact that you think you understood based on what you know, is not sufficient to place you in a position of danger of further injury. That's why in this country we say you have the right to remain silent. Exercise that right. Shut your mouth where you aren't expressing your opinion from yourself without their opinion being the catalyst. You see, when you speak for yourself without the stimulation of anybody else's input, you're doing fine. But when you speak your opinion to defend something that has nothing to do with that which you read to begin with, and they're serving as the catalyst to ignite you into speaking, you're doing it in a way that will only cause further conflict. That conflict indicates that you lack the ability to grasp what another is saying and leaving it at that. You have to defend yourself, because subconsciously all that empty space is telling you you're being attacked, whether you care to acknowledge it or not. If you're quick to get angry, you bring destruction upon yourself. If you're quick, because of a lack of polymath in your educational approach to yourself from a variety of knowledge, you're bringing more conflict against yourself. You're conditioning yourself to respond from that emptiness that exists in there, motivating you to speak in defense about something that did not really come from you to begin with, but from somebody else's displayed conception, view, or ideas. Get the point? If what another says stirs you into action, you're being controlled by all the crap in your mind, especially all that emptiness. But if you're the initiator of the conversation, the same principle describes apply to anyone responding to you in a conflictual, helpful way. They are victimized by that which I described about you. Okay. The point of the matter here is you got to educate yourself to the point where you have acquired reflective equilibrium. All that hate crap has to stop. So you ask, then when do I stand up against anything that I may disagree with? When it produces injury. If it's designed to take another man's life or another woman's life or a child's life or anybody you love's life, or just you happen to see it happening in front of you, that's when you stand up. If our country's going to be invaded, that's when we stand up. But what we're really doing is carrying into the outside world what we used to do as children in our own homes. Fighting every freaking day with our brothers and sisters because they were the only ones that were close enough to display the very same thing everyone in the family contained, and just as easily victimized by it. Get the point? And we go through life like that developing with no one saying, "Oh, this has to be adjusted slightly." There is no one in any family that has the necessary instructions to assure their children develop with that mentality of reflective equilibrium. And that's the norm. We live in a world where that's the norm. You now have to learn the hard way. Get a black eye, scratch your knee, you disobey, you experience an uncomfortable outcome, on and on and on. All the examples are many. And I'm saying all these things to show that it's not just based on what we're reading. Our response to things we read or disagree with come from years of ignorance in our development. And when you see it happening in a country, you stand outside of the family. You stand outside of the land you live and you look at the country. That stems from thousands of years of passed on practices, conditionings, ceremonies, rituals, anything you can imagine. We're fighting over things that we did not originate. We're fighting over things that others long gone and dead were involved in. See, now in between the first creators of it and us are victims just like us. And you can tell them, and it makes no sense. But come on, we live in a country where we have access to knowledge, we have access to any kind of fame we want, we have access to wealth, we have access to whatever you can imagine. And then you'll have people encouraging you, even with those things you imagine. It's beautiful. Unfortunately, we have to share this freedom, because it includes them, it doesn't exclude them, with those who don't know what to do with it. So they make a mess out of it. Now, I've made plenty messes. And there's no telling how many more messes I'm going to, lay out in front of me that will sharpen me and teach me, put me through agonizing pain, whatever, etc. The point is that I say this to help you identify what you are and what you're doing, what you can do and what you haven't done yet. and not to base all those things on standing up to defend something you're not the originator of. It's applicable to every field on the planet. Now you can say you got a medical guy, goes to doctorate school, studies medicine. He is studying what others before him have done. He's not the originator, but he makes it his interest, primary interest, to become competent in using those tools far more beneficially. Is that a word? No. Far more. Let's stick with the word competent. Far more competently than the medical doctors before him that found it to work as well. And as you know, our improving competently is due to the medical field progressing. And with each new mind that perceives it as a tool, the improvements take place, and the competencies become better, not the incompetencies. They'll always be there because of our ignorance, empty space in our brain being greater than how much we know. But you get the message, you know. It doesn't take a Puerto Rican to tell you this. You get my point? It doesn't. You know, it doesn't. Well, hopefully this sort of like helps us understand why we respond hatefully. And believe me, I'm constantly battling with that. The moment I see the hint of the hatred, I tell myself, this tells me I need to fix it at this spot. So I'm going to answer like this. And place it where it needs to be placed to keep the peace. You get the point? Nobody's the same. Whatever it is you're improving in, you're just using somebody else's tools. Actually, everything we do on this planet is like, you know what a hand-me-down is. You get your big brother's clothing. They don't fit you. You look kind of sloppy. You have to wait till you grow into them. It's the same thing there. How much easier it will be for you to be proud about yourself if you got your own new clothing, which you end up doing later in life. So our viewpoints and our thinking process can't stay as they were when we learned them and think they apply to any improvement thereafter, even if we don't know it's an improvement, because they don't apply. They simply serve as stepping stones. So if I get pissed off at you, it's because I'm pissed off since you're no longer in the same stepping block I'm on as far as viewpoint and actions are concerned. Not to be confused with saying no to injuring or something that causes like a very serious rebuttal. You know what I mean? Consequences, complications, and you piss off society. You don't want to do that. Because no matter how much of a great thinker you are or how much of a fighter you are, don't fool yourself. There are more people on this planet than your perceived competency is great. You will be overpowered. There's no doubt about that. Take an ant. Let's go to the insect world. Take an ant from one kind, maybe a big one from one kind, whatever the kind may be. Place that ant in the nest of those little tiny red ants. They will kick his ass. No matter how many he cuts in half, they will eat him up and they will show him who's boss. It's not like one ant proving how tough he is. If they eat you up, does that really matter? No. Look at the prison system. Tough guys. Really? He thought he was tougher than the people he was abusing. He thought he still thinks he's tougher than the persons that he's victimizing. Well, it so happens that it took all the puny people that you think you're tougher than to unite in number, overpower you, kick your ass in some cases, throw you in. You'll cry out that your rights were violated, and they look at you like some filthy animal. Well, the idea here is that we have a tendency to always go in that direction. Because it's easier. It really is. It's easier. It's easier to insist I'm somebody. But no, no. We're everybody. That's all there is to it. You are you, but you belong to the category of everybody. You're a human being, unique and individual, but you are in the same human condition. And there is no one that's exempt from it. So you gotta sort of like think twice about where you apply your hate messages, okay? Now when you come to my website on YouTube, I already know, so I disable it. I'm a grumpy old man. I don't want to listen to that shit. I've had enough of it, you know? So I had enough of it. Fighting? I like it. But my age won't permit me to engage as gluttonly as I used to. So now, I sort of like keep that shit at a distance. You know? We're born with enough brain damage as is. We don't need to inflict any more pain. Look at all the stuff on YouTube. One side will glorify it. The very same thing being glorified, another side reveals as, look at the shit that happens to him. So you gotta really weigh things out. Don't be sticking to one point. Don't say, oh, this is the only thing I need to look at. Look how glorious it is. Look how magnificent. An ultimate fighter, an ultimate thinker, an ultimate doer, the richest man on the planet. You better start thinking. You better start paying attention to that scale. Because on the other side, there are people revealing how ridiculous and useless it is to perceive the world from one side only. That right there is a whole totally different story on itself. I'm going to stop right here because I'm going to have me another banana and this monkey is going to keep working out. See, 59 years old, so my purposes for building up are specifically for my reasons, which everyone should use to keep themselves fighting against the aging process. And to all my friends, I say thank you for listening. To people who are coming out for the first time, I apologize for not letting you give me your opinion, but I respect it anyway as it being your right. Enjoy it. I just don't want to open the door for those who, no matter what you say, scratch their head, scratch their ass and say, who the fuck this guy think he is? Who made him the boss? Ain't nobody made me the boss. We live in America. We're all kings here. We're all paupers here. Now, which one you want to stay in the most and become discouraged and disillusioned in? That's up to you. Okay? Do you remember watching Liar Liar? What did Ace Ventura as an attorney tell that client? Quit breaking the law, asshole. Well, every time we communicate with people like I just described, we are breaking the human law just the same. Oh, back to what I was saying. Let me go have this banana. I need it big time. Oh, good day, Freddie Lee, and all my other Saifu friends out there that participate in my webpage. Signing off.